Hello, everyone. We are in my kitchen this time. I don't know if you can see all my knives and mixers and things behind me on the other counter where I had to move them all so I had room for my computer and all my equipment here by the stove. I have some fun things to show you this time. Before we begin, let's do one of our word puzzles. I'll just switch over. Okay, let's see here. Ooh, another word that ends with an E. This one begins with a T for turtle. Do you know what instrument this is? It looks like it's probably a violin. There's a lion. That's a whistle. What do you think this word could be? E for egg. It's a number, 12. I didn't know there would be a number in there. This will probably take more than 12 minutes to show you. So one of the funnest ways to find a new food adventure is when someone shares some food with you. In this book, Everybody Bakes Bread, a young girl gets to taste all kinds of different foods because her neighbors are generous and share with her. Everybody Bakes Bread by Nora Dooley, illustrations by Peter Thornton. To all who feed the hungry, for Mom and Dad. It was another rainy Saturday. Why did it always have to rain on the weekend? At least it could snow instead. We were supposed to play kickball today, but nobody would come out in all this rain. Mom was making my great-grandmother's Italian bread with me and Anthony. He's my little brother, and he was really getting on my nerves. Carrie, and that is enough. Mom had that dangerous sound in her voice. But I never get a turn at kneading, I said. I kneaded Anthony's arm to make him move. That word, kneading, take a look at that word. Kneaded and kneading. That's spelled different than the other kneading, which is Needing, which means you're needing to use some, you need something, right? Like I need to go to the store if I want to buy milk, but this is spelled differently. This kind with a K and an N-E-A means kind of pushing, kneading, squishing with your hands. It's a way we make bread dough work. So she kneaded his arm. He squawked and bread dough fell on the floor. Quiet, you two, scolded Mom. Anna is sleeping. We made faces at each other while Mom sighed and stared out the window at the rain. She turned around and raised one eyebrow. Carrie, why don't you go ask Mrs. Ambrose and Crystal if they have a three-handed rolling pin we can use? Okay, I said. I like to run errands. I want to go too, whined Anthony. Then you'll miss the braiding and the baking, Mom reminded him. Anthony thought about it, then smiled and stuck his tongue out at me. Is the rolling pin for baking, Mom? I asked, pulling on my boots and raincoat. Just tell them what we're doing. and that I need one, she said with a funny little smile. Can I ask around the neighborhood? Just be back for lunch, said Mom. There were only a few interesting puddles on the way to Mrs. Ambrose's house, so I got there pretty quickly. It took them a while to answer their door since Mrs. Ambrose uses a cane and her cousin Crystal has a bad hip. But I didn't mind because their entry smelled like fresh coconut bread. Next to Barbadian fish cakes, I think I like Barbadian coconut bread best. Crystal let me in, and I told her why I was there. She laughed quietly as I climbed the stairs slowly behind her. Upstairs, Mrs. Ambrose said, "Sit down a moment, girl. Test some of this bread come fresh out the oven." I was right. There on the cooling rack were 2 big loaves of coconut bread. Mrs. Ambrose cut me an end piece, and a puff of steam came out. The bread was heavy in my hand. It was packed with raisins and sweet with coconut. What should I tell my mom about the rolling pin? I asked between bites. Oh, tell her we loaned it to our niece, said Mrs. Ambrose. But you're welcome to come back any time your mother needs something, added Crystal sweetly. Thanks for the bread, I called as I clomped down the stairs. It was raining harder than ever when I went to Rajit's house. His mom has lots of interesting things to cook with. Besides, Rajit is a good foot kickball player, and if enough kids would come out, maybe we could have a rainy kickball game. Rajit's mom answered the door. Carrie, come in, come in. What brings you out in this weather? She asked. After I explained about our bread making and my errand, she said, smiling, well, I will check for you, but I was just making chapatis, Indian bread, with Rajit and his brother. Perhaps you would like to help. We made the most delicious flat bread right in a frying pan. It was very chewy and nutty tasting. Rajit and Sunjit agreed to play kickball after lunch if I could get some other kids. Their mom couldn't find the rolling pin, so I said goodbye and went to see Mark Deloach. I had to ring and ring before Mark heard the bell. He was listening to some loud music. What do you want? He said when he finally answered the door. I explained the game plan on our way into the kitchen. His older sisters, Anne Marie and Shirley, were washing dishes. Mark started to pick at a pan of fresh cornbread on the table, so I did too. It was really buttery, and it was just plain old cornbread with nothing on it. Mrs. Deloach comes from South Carolina, and her cornbread is the best. Anne Marie turned around and saw us snacking. Stop picking at that. It's for the church dinner, she hollered. That's all right. Their mom came to the kitchen. This little one is just for the nibbling rabbits around here, she said. Mrs. Deloach opened the oven and showed us a much bigger pan of cornbread inside. The big ones go into the church, but y'all please eat like folks with manners, she said, handing us plates and a knife. Oh, I forgot to ask, I said. Have you got a 3-handled rolling pin my mom could borrow? My old pin hasn't got but 2 handles, said Mrs. Deloach, looking really funny at me with her nose wrinkling like she had to sneeze. Y'all can ask her if she needs my 3-legged ladle, though. Anne Marie and Shirley laughed. I did too, even though I didn't really get the joke. I'll tell her, I said as I left, and thanks for the cornbread. Nabil and his sister, Amalia, live with their mom, dad, and grandma above the Middle East Oasis restaurant and bakery, which their dad runs. They have lots of different stuff in the restaurant kitchen, so I thought I'd check there. Grandma Sater answered the apartment door. She is always nice to me and Anthony. Whenever she sees us pass by the restaurant, She gives us free pastries. She is from Lebanon and is very shy about speaking English, so Nabil and Amalia usually translate her Arabic for us. I asked for Nabil and Amalia with my best manners. Not here, said Mrs. Sater. Come downstairs. She pointed at a door behind her. Follow me. We went into the restaurant kitchen, where everyone was busy getting ready for Saturday lunch. I looked around, but didn't see any rolling pins. Nabil and Amalia were helping their uncle take balloon-shaped things out of an oven. Is this pocket bread? I asked. Yep, said Nabil. I love the way it looks when it's puffy, I said. Nabil and I call it cloth bread when it's this fresh, because it's so soft, said Amalia as we brought a basket of bread upstairs. The bread flattened as it cooled, and it was just like a damp cloth. You could roll it or fold it or scrunch it into a ball. I told Nabil and Amalia about the kickball plan while we ate fresh bread with a thick dip called hummus. They told me to ring their bell with our special code after lunch, and they would come right down. On my way back from the Satyrs, I was swinging around parking meters and not really paying any attention. That's how I forgot about the huge puddle where the storm sewer backs up. Look out, warned a small voice behind me. Too late. A car went zooming by and water splashed right over my head. I was soaked, even my raincoat. It was Mrs. Max who had called out. She was wet too. Oh, come in with me, Carrie, and dry off a minute. Maybe have some tea, she suggested. I like Mrs. Max. Sometimes I help her with her grocery bags, and she gives me cups of tea in beautiful china she says came from the old country. Mrs. Max lives by herself, right in front of that puddle in the old brick apartments. Mrs. Max said she was all dressed up today because today was the Jewish Sabbath, and she had gone to temple. While she changed, I got a basin of hot water to soak our feet. We sat with towels over our heads and cups of tea in our laps. I like this bread, I said. This is challah, said Mrs. Max. I make a loaf every Friday. Oh, it's braided like my mom's, but yours is very yellow and nice and sweet, I said. Yes, it has a lot of eggs in it and some sugar. Would you like some more tea? Asked Mrs. Max. And you still haven't told me what you were doing out on a day like today. Well, we were baking bread today. Anthony and I were fighting, so my mom asked me to go run an errand for her. Say, do you have a three-handled rolling pin? A three-handled rolling pin? Your mother sent you for this? Mrs. Max was quiet for a moment, but her eyes were twinkling. Finally, she said, how would you use that third handle, do you think? I said, thinking this out. Oh, no, I groaned. Oh, yes, Mrs. Max answered. Your mother played a trick on you, perhaps. I laughed out loud. So did Mrs. Max. I felt warm again, and it was past noon. We still needed one more player for kickball, so I said thanks and left for my last stop before home. Our new neighbors upstairs are from El Salvador, and their son Bernardo is about my age. He has been watching us kids from the second floor window, so I thought he might be interested in a kickball game. His little sister Becky looked out through the mail slot. She's just 2 years old and babbles nonstop in 2 languages, Spanish and English, all mixed together. She was telling me about our cat, I think. Bernardo's grandmother opened the door. She led me into the kitchen, where Bernardo was eating something round and yellow with melted cheese coming out of it. Hi, I said, kind of shyly. Hi, he answered softly. Eat? Asked his grandma as she set down a plate for me. Thank you. What is this? I asked, taking a big bite. A pupusa, said Bernardo. You like it? Asked his grandma. Yes, thank you, I replied, popping the last bite into my mouth. Bernardo, can you play kickball with us after lunch? Let me ask. He talked to his grandma, and looking out at the rain, she shrugged her shoulders but said, "See." I said, "Gracias," that's thanks in Spanish, and went down the back stairs to our house. When I opened our back door, the kitchen smelled great. I got to do all the braiding myself, boasted Anthony. Did you have a good walk? Asked Mom, busy with Anna. Yes. No one had that rolling pin, but you can borrow Miss DeLoach's three-legged ladle anytime you want, I said, giving her my best one eyebrow up look. Mom looked up and saw my face. Oh, I guess you found me out. Yep, I said, but I also found enough kids to play kickball, so can I play? If I wear boots and everything? Yes, you can play, but after you have lunch, said Mom. Lunch, I said, finishing a piece of warm Italian bread dipped in olive oil and garlic. I couldn't eat another bite. Practically everybody was baking bread this morning. This book has recipes in the back. All the bread that was in the story has a recipe in the back, including one for Bernardo's pupusas. Let's take a close look at this. Bernardo's pupusas says it uses masa harina. Masa harina is a corn flour that can be found in the gourmet section of a grocery store or in a grocery that specializes in Mexican and South American foods. It has 4 cups of masa harina, 1 teaspoon salt, 2 cups hot water, 3/4 cup shredded cheese or refried beans, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. I have all of these ingredients, so I thought I'd try making these today. The first step was to combine salt and water and stir until the salt was dissolved. I heated up the water in my kettle, and I did that. It said add masa harina and stir. I've done those steps so far. What I have left to do is roll this dough I made with the masa harina. It feels like Play-Doh, it's squishy. I have to make these into pupusas. The first thing to do will be to move my document camera so you can see what I'm doing. It looks good. Let's go a little bit bigger. There we go. Now you can see. The first thing I need to do is wash my hands. You can hear the water. All right, clean hands. So I am supposed to pinch off a piece of dough, it says, about the size of a golf ball. It really does feel like Play-Doh. It says to make 2 flat circles like this by pressing it out, put some stuff in the middle, and then put the other piece on top. I discovered that made them a little too thick. I also had to add more water to the dough because the recipe doesn't really have enough water. Sometimes you have to experiment in order to make a recipe work. I'm going to stop about here. And in the middle of this, it's okay if it's falling apart, I'm going to put some chili beans. Usually the traditional is refried beans, but I don't have any. So I'm going to try it with these white chili beans. And I'm going to put some cheese. I hope I didn't put too much filling. What I saw when I looked it up on Pinterest is that most people wrap the dough up around the filling like this. I've got some filling creeping out. I think I used too much. It's okay if a little bit gets out, but now I have to squash this down. I almost forgot to start the pan heating. Uh-oh. I have to start that pan heating up and then put it in. While that pan's heating, I've got another book I can show you. This one right here. Let's see. I'm moving this over. I don't want the book to be too close to my pan because the pan's got fire going on. This book is Milk to Ice Cream by Inez Snyder. Milk to Ice Cream. This informational book has some contents. Each of these is a chapter. It says, "Hi, my name is Mark. My dad and I are going to make ice cream." They have ingredients out too. They're cooking today also. "We use milk to make ice cream. I mix the milk and some eggs together in a bowl. Then I mix sugar, flour, and salt in another bowl. Now, Dad and I mix everything together. Next, Dad cooks that mixture. He stirs the mixture while it cooks. The mixture is finished cooking. Dad puts in some cream. Maybe that's why it's called ice cream. Hey, I think our pan might be hot enough to put the pupusa in. Let's find out. Oops, wrong way. I lift up my pupusa with my spatula and put it in. Ooh, be careful of the spattering. Let me adjust the light, you can see it better. There you go. Hear that crackling noise? That means it's hot enough to do this. You know, when you fry something, a grown-up usually should help because the spattering is very dangerous. Directions say to cook the pupusas for 5 minutes on each side. I'm turning down the heat a little bit. Let's see if I can move this over enough to show you the rest of the book while it cooks. Dad put in some cream. It says I add vanilla to the mixture. Vanilla will make the ice cream taste good. Now, Dad puts the mixture in the freezer. Soon it will be ice cream. The ice cream is finished. It tastes great. In the back, it's got some words. Cream, freezer, ice cream, mixture, stirs, vanilla. When there's words in the back of a book, we call it a glossary. Whoops. You got to see a picture of me as a little one, having a little trouble with my computer. Hello. I'm not used to doing these videos in my kitchen. This is still cooking. It still wants to spatter. I'm going to turn it over. And it's calmed down a little bit. I'll show you with the camera. Ooh, how it loves to spatter. I should have brought my spatter guard out, but I'm not sure where I put it. I'm standing back a little bit so I don't get hurt. Oh my. You know why it's spattering and making that snapping noise? Because I'm cooking something in hot oil. One of the reasons we're cooking with hot oil is dangerous isn't just because it's hot. It's because when you put something in there that has water in it, like my masa dough, when the water hits the oil, it makes the oil jump around. It can spatter out and it can even burn you. So that's why you sometimes use something called a spatter guard to cover it. And you definitely want an adult to help you with the cooking. Let's see if it'll let me give you a look. Let's see if I can do this without turning off my video. All right, let's move the camera over. There we go. It's starting to turn a golden brown. You can see it a little better if I lean over and block some of the light from the window. Have you ever made pupusas at home? Some people eat them a lot. Some people have never tried them. Everyone in different houses eats different foods. Bouncy computer. Looks like it needs a little more time on each side. It takes a little time to make a pupusa. I'm sure it will be worth it. I'm having to stand way back because that grease wants to jump and jump. It's important though to cook it at a pretty high temperature so you get that nice and crispy golden brown. So it will be worth it. You know, I'm wondering if between the two sides, if this isn't taking about 12 minutes just to cook a pupusa. But pupusas do look very tasty. I think this one's almost done. A little more time on this side. All that crackling. Get to my computer to turn the camera. Hello. This is my first time cooking with the computer and the document camera. Yeah, that's looking golden brown on both sides. Very good. Looking on the other side. It's ready to put on a plate. Turning the heat off. There it is. Hard to see. Yep. That was the best part of a cooking adventure, where you get to taste it. This is very hot. I want it to cool. When it's not so hot, I think you can just pick it up and eat it like a little crispy pie. Ooh, it's crispy. Look at that. It's a nice crispy crackling sound when you cut into it. Oh, that does smell good. Let's see if we can see the inside. You see that cheese coming out. Mmm. Mm-hmm. Mmm. You ever eat some hot food and you have to kind of, yep, that might need to cool a little bit. Well, I have learned how to make a new thing, and it is very tasty. I think I'm going to need my spatter guard. Hope you enjoyed the food adventures today. See you soon for another one. Bye-bye.